You're tuned into SEC Sunday Night, part of the Chief Sports Network.
All right, grab a drink and grab a snack. It's Sunday night here on the Chief Sports Network. Craig, how's it going tonight? We are happy to be here once again. Make sure that you're downloading the Chief Sports app if you've not already done so. It's a wild and crazy Sunday in the SEC, my brother. How are things up in Michigan?
I'm in Athens. What are you talking about?
Oh, I see that. Sorry, I forgot you were sitting on top of the stadium there.
Just hanging out between the hedges tonight. No, looking forward to it, buddy. How are you?
I am doing well. Watching a little baseball this weekend. Tuned into the Super Regionals. Just trying to catch up and you know, to be honest, we have some stuff to get into tonight. We're gonna be real in just a little bit. We want to welcome everybody in. We are excited that you're here with us again on SEC Sunday Night. We will be here with you every Sunday night at 8 p.m. And as we work our way through the dog days of summer, we're going to bring you the latest news, and we're also going to dig into every topic that you want to discuss. And this will cover every team, all 16 teams in the league. And you know what? We're going to use our connections to pull in some people from outside of the SEC as well, so that we can continue to push the narrative and drive the perspective that is fact, that this is the greatest league in all of college athletics. And so tonight, Craig, we have some good stuff, because we not only are going to look at some practical numbers, we're going to look at the House settlement, we're going to look at NIL and how things are changing and the new landscape of college athletics, but we're also going to do a little ode to the fans tonight, because we know that not only is the SEC the best on the field, but they bring the best fan experience off the field as well. And so I'm excited to do that, to dig into some message boards and talk about our friends over at the Message Board Genius podcast. And we're excited to kind of dig into some of that stuff as well. If you weren't here with us last week, we will remind you, I am Rob Williams and he is Craig McMichael, and we are new here to the Chief Sports Network, but we're excited to be here as always. Make sure that you download the Chief Sports app. All right, let's move to news that matters. We've got some super regionals going on. I'm going to go through everything because we're almost in Omaha, and then I want to talk about it for just a minute. So Arizona defeats North Carolina in Chapel Hill after North Carolina absolutely destroyed them in game one.
Well, is there any comment from the communication director out of Chapel Hill, or no comment yet?
I'm not sure that I've heard anything out of him yet. Not just yet. It goes to show, though, I think a little bit, and I was having this discussion this week, that there's not as much carryover as we might like to think from game to game in these baseball series. Arizona lost a lot of Fridays this season, and so even though they got absolutely boat raced, it makes sense that they were able to win the next 2 days. Absolutely, game two momentum carries over to game three. But clearly, game one momentum did not carry over for the Tar Heels. You also have Louisville defeating Miami in 3 games. Here's one where I want to park for just a moment, because Arkansas defeated Tennessee. And so the Razorbacks are headed to Omaha, one of the most winning programs in all of college baseball to never win a national championship. And so I'm going to stake my claim here. I said that last week that they are one of my favorites. They're who I'm riding with. That's who I'm going to go with. Pig Suey. That's what I'm rocking with for the next little bit here, the next few weeks as we get ready to go to Omaha. I like it. Yep. They're really good all around, and it's interesting to see Liam Doyle, the ace for the Volunteers today, who is very, very fiery. Likes to run his mouth when he can. And he changed his approach a little bit. And it was mentioned on the broadcast multiple times that he was really trying to slow things down and steady the atmosphere at Baum Walker today. Stepped off the mound several times off the back in between pitches. And so it's not really his style, but nonetheless, the Vols go down.
Yep. Hey, so real quick.
Yeah.
What is the over-under on John Daly Jello shots with the Hogs going to Omaha?
You know what? We talked about this Jello shot thing privately, and I think that it's going to be interesting to see how we continue to get into it in the next couple of weeks in Omaha. I'm going to get to this in a minute. We have LSU coming up in game 2 against West Virginia tonight. We know what those Cajuns can do if they get a hold of Omaha, and they'll go out there in droves in their RVs, and they'll pick up the whole town of Baton Rouge and move it, and they will typically dominate that. But John Daly does bring his own challenge. I think that he could single-handedly keep Arkansas in the game. So we'll see. It really all depends from the final tally of Jello shots. It all depends on how long your team stays in. So if I'm picking Arkansas to go all the way, then they're going to be there for a while. John Daly's going to be hanging out in Omaha for quite a bit.
Yeah, but we know John Daly's not a quitter, so he'll do what he can to make sure Hog Nation is proud.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure he can handle his Jello shots. All right, UCLA defeats UTSA out in LA. Coastal Carolina takes down Auburn in 2 games. Chance up.
Wow.
Shout out to Chance Miller, the AD there at Coastal, and we're excited in the state of South Carolina. Although another SEC team biting the bullet. Murray State and Duke will play game 3 tomorrow, and then tonight we have LSU and West Virginia in game 2 at 9:00 on ESPN2 or ESPN Plus, and also you have Oregon State in a matchup with Florida State in game 3 tonight, also on.
You all right? We lost.
Sorry,
Rob.
I think no, we're good. We got me back. That's all good. Also, FSU versus Oregon State in Corvallis tonight, game 3 at 9:00 on ESPN2 or Plus. So that's really just a location issue there. So interesting matchups. So you have Arkansas, potentially LSU. Those are going to be the ones from the SEC that we're looking at.
Have you been to Coastal yet? You are my South Carolina brother.
Yeah, absolutely. So a couple things there. In a few weeks, I will be live, not far from Coastal Carolina, on this show with a buddy of mine that we're getting out of town with, and he is a Coastal grad, and we'll be about 30 minutes from the campus. And he's also a big enough Georgia fan that he named his daughter Georgia. So I think that you will enjoy him, and he may just find his way into the background of my camera view at some point. But we will be. But yes, I have been to Coastal. It's right there at Dirty Myrtle in Conway. Last weekend, I was not too far away for that regional. It was very, very tempting not to head on down the road and check out a couple games.
Check out Coastal this fall. They have free concessions. You get hot dogs, nachos, popcorn, and fountain drinks. So
absolutely,
one more reason to go for the teal.
The Chance Miller special, former associated AD at South Carolina. He did that at some basketball games in Columbia, and he's bringing that deal to Conway and expanding it some. And so, great deal for the fans. I think it really drives the momentum and the attendance there. All right, so that's what we've got going on in baseball. We're looking at Arkansas's already there. We're going to look at LSU tonight, and then we'll see what Florida State and Oregon State have for us as well. All right, let's move to softball as Craig already has his horns up in the air. Hook 'em. Texas wins its first national title in softball, defeating Texas Tech in 3 games. Take it away, Mr. Chris Del Conte Slappy.
I'm just saying. I have said it for a long time. Chris Del Conte is the top AD in the SEC and in college football and in college sports. CDC came to Texas in 2017, and with softball's national championship, he now has 15 national championships in 8 years. 15. That's just about 2 a year. I'm not that good at math, Rob. I'm a social studies guy, athletic director, but just about 2 a year for Chris Del Conte, and probably we'll have another one come January, but I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves.
Is this a math-free zone? I think this is supposed to be a math-free zone. If we get to talk to Casey later, I'm going to let him know that you were trying to do math on the show already. Yeah, I think that there's a lot to be said for Chris Del Conte as you can look. Obviously, it's Texas, right? So on the one hand, there's a bar and there's an expectation that you're going to perform athletically and that you're going to hit the standard. On the other hand, they have historically in some of these major sports, especially we look at football, right? Because that's where we're always going to come back to. We're always going to come back to football. It's been an underperformance, and Sark has them climbing, but you just kind of tipped your thoughts on what might happen later on this year, as you are riding with Arch Manning and that crew. We'll see how those thoughts develop over the course of the summer. At some point, we should bring the spreadsheet in. Don't you think?
We should. We
At some
should.
point we should bring the spreadsheet in. I have to find a way to mention this every single week, because I think, we're going to have new guests every week. We're going to have new listeners, new viewers, and everybody needs to be aware that in May of 2025, we predicted every game for all 16 teams in the SEC. We will be referring back to it over and over again. And so I will be sure to get those over to Phil, and we'll have them up on the screen for you eventually.
That was perfect. But
we want
to answer your question real quick about Texas. Yes, Texas has all the money. They have all the resources.
Sure.
But all of those monies and resources mean nothing without good leadership. And to me, that's what Chris Alcante has done. He has done a fantastic job. Him, Sark, he's now got Sean Miller. They took Texas A&M's baseball coach last year. That didn't work so well this year in the College World Series, but I digress. But what Texas has done, and I look at Del Conte and I look at Sark's especially, they've taken the boosters, and the boosters have sort of run amok at Texas. Not everybody has been aligned. And what Del Conte and Sark have done is they get everybody rolling in the same direction now. Now everybody's behind that. It's one of the biggest things Mac Brown said that was one of the biggest challenges at Texas. The talent was always there, but you had boosters who always wanted to say, who always wanted to have a thought. And what Del Conte and Sark have done, everyone's rowing in the same direction. Now you're seeing the fruits of that. 15 national championships in 8 years, pretty damn impressive.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly is. And I think that breaking the barrier in softball as their first title in that sport just kind of opens it up to another realm. And to get past Oklahoma to do it, that's a rival, but it's also the most dominant team in the sport. And so that one has to be a little bit more sweet for them as well. So here's the thing for me is that and we said this last week, but bringing these two teams into the league all around has been beneficial. Now we're going to look at postseason success, and maybe it hasn't been all that either school really wanted it to be, with the exception of softball. But I do think it ultimately raises the water level that we're working with here, and so I'm excited. I'm excited to see what continues, and I have high hopes for Texas this year as well. Full disclosure, I have them at 10-2. Here's my first spreadsheet drop.
10-2.
I have them at 10-2. Bookend.
Someone hit him in the comments.
Look, here you go.
Hit him in the comments.
Here's your hook 'em. We're going to bookend the season with losses, starting at Ohio State and ending against the Aggies. Gig 'em. All right.
I'm going to send you some Buckeye donuts. But real quick, before we get on to the last thing, I have a chance for us to go off the rails just for a second.
Okay, that's fine.
What is your favorite Kenny Chesney college football song? Is it Boys of Fall?
Can I cue you up here? It's got to be I Go Back, right?
It's got to be I Go Back. Like Boys of Fall, like I swear. So Boys of Fall, dance to it at my wedding. Still gives me goosebumps. Okay. But shout out to Kenny Chesney. I know, Rocky Top. We give Rocky Top a hard time here, and SEC Sunday night. Almost said it just means more. But Kenny Chesney is rocking the Sphere, and I don't know if you saw it on the old Instagram this week.
Absolutely.
But Kenny Chesney had Tennessee running through the tee at the Sphere to I Go Back, and it was one of the coolest damn things. So it got me to thinking a little bit. If you're Las Vegas. Yep. Are you putting the national championship? Are you putting these big games in the Sphere? You imagine watching that big game on the Sphere like that? I mean, basically that whole game around.
Incredible. Have you seen these and we got 2 minutes here and we're going to jump, but
yep.
Well, I'll say this too. Have you seen these interactive, they're basically sports bars, but they have some type of entertainment factor as well that are popping up where you're getting almost an experience like you're at the game, but you're sitting at tables.
Dallas Fort Worth has the experience called the Cosm. Look,
there it is.
I did my research.
I knew it was you that sent me that.
I did my research.
Yeah, I agree. I think that'd be great for the Sphere, and I think it'd be great for college football fans, especially if you can't go to the game. But ultimately, I think that Vegas is a championship city, and we should have more championships there. Okay, all right. So House Settlement has been approved. We're going to get into this with the boss and Uncle Tony here in just a few minutes, but. Let's just kind of tease it for just a moment. Rev share in the SEC. Is anybody going over 80% football in your mind?
I think 80% is going to be the top end. I don't see anyone going beyond 80%.
I think 75 is basically what we've heard in most places, and we're on the Chief Sports Network, so we'll give credit to JC Sherbert, who has given us some great numbers on that, and I think that's probably going to be roundabout the average. But I think it's impactful because there's already money in the SEC, right? And you made the argument. And Tony's going to have his thoughts about collectives, and those are what they are. But we made the argument last time that we talked with Tony that we don't think that the collectives are going to fade as much as he does. That we think it's going to be a both and type of situation where you're going to maximize funds and really bring college athletics to the next level. We know it's driven by money. I gave the speech a few weeks ago. I think I said it on Inside the Gamecocks this week as well in a roundabout way that, if everything is driven by money and everything is greed filled, then we know what's going to push it. So if you pump money into it, then it's going to move. And Ohio State kind of showed us that this year too. We're also going to look at roster limits. You pointed out some numbers that are very important that we need to get to here in a few minutes, but of note that it looks like there will be numbers grandfathered in, so it's going to take us a minute to get settled in on some of those limits a little bit.
Yep. Yeah. No. Like I said, I think to just kind of put a bow on it, those dollars are still going to come somewhere. People still want to win, and whether it's above board, but here's the biggest part: everybody knows the settlement may or may not have been coming.
Yep.
And these collectives are pretty smart. They know what to do with their dollars. They've also seen how their dollars can enhance their football program. So what I think is going to happen, they've had their lawyers really taking a look at it. We're going to see some really interesting contracts being put forth. We're also going to see some really interesting legal challenges to see if this thing is actually going to have teeth or not.
Yep, that's the question for me is how sharp are the teeth going to be? All right, we are going to jump to a break here, and we will be back in just a minute with more on SEC Sunday Night on the Chief Sports Network.
This at TriFit Physical Therapy and Performance. We believe true health and peak performance start with personalized care. Whether you're an athlete recovering from injury or just chasing your next personal best, we're here to guide your journey. With expert coaching, hands-on therapy, and transparent cash-based pricing, you get the care you need without the insurance red tape. One client drove 100 miles just to see us and said it was worth every mile. Contact us at trifitperformance.com or 803-353-5619. TriFit Physical Therapy and Performance, where recovery meets results.
Oh man, the building is on fire.
Emergencies and accidents happen. When you're in the middle of a fire or water event, all you want is for things to return to normal as soon as possible. Resto Pros of the Midlands is with you, guiding you through the process and working with you to get your home or office back in working order. They'll answer your questions, discuss procedures, and can act as your advocate when it comes to processing your insurance claim. Resto Pros Midlands SC.com. Open 24/7 when you need them. Quality that is guaranteed.
Yo, what's up?
Baby, let's go.
This is SEC Sunday Night, part of the Chief Sports Network.
All right, welcome back to SEC Sunday Night, here with you every Sunday at 8 p.m. on the Chief Sports Network. Make sure that you go out and download the Chief Sports app right now to make sure that you can maximize your experience and get all the content that you need, not only from our show, but from a family of shows here on the network. All right, it is time for the TriFit guest line. If you have had a fun weekend like I have and you've been out there and you've been showing your age, or maybe you're just actually an athlete. Craig, I can't ever really claim to be an athlete. I played basketball all through school. My wife would tell you that I sat on the bench and did a great job of cheering the rest of the team on. But if you are an athlete, if you're a runner, or you play any sport, or you're just trying to stay fit and stay in shape, and you maybe tweak something and you need to work on a little bit, make sure that you call TriFit. Go to trifitperformance.com. They're going to get you right there. It's certified physical therapy, but it is more than physical therapy. It is strength coaching. It is beyond a normal physical therapist. There's no insurance red tape. And so you don't have to worry about your insurance giving you a referral or an approval or any of that stuff. So they're really going to get you set up. Make sure that you call Mitch at trifitperformance.com. All right. It is time for the guest line. And ladies and gentlemen, straight from the plane, Casey Cregan is with us tonight. We are excited to have Casey with us as he is walking off of the plane. Casey is the producer of the Message Board Genius podcast, and so it is time for our ode to the fans as we look into the meltdowns that are happening. And we are so incredibly thankful to have our friend Casey here with us as he grabs his bag and walks out into the airport. What's going on, buddy?
What's up, fellas? So happy to be here. Sorry for the I usually have technical difficulties running the Message Board Geniuses podcast, but I never thought I'd be walking through a terminal in an airplane and coming on your show. So thankful to be here. Appreciate you guys having me as always. It's good to see you boys.
This is phenomenal. You see, this is what I call friendship, and this is what I call dedication. We love you, buddy. We love you.
Well, if the plane was on time, I would have been in the car by now, but
Listen,
that would be
dunks
too easy.
called. I'm waiting for my cruller, waiting for the dunks.
All right. Let's talk about it because we know that you're busy and you probably got to grab a bag or two and find the car and all the things. And so we would normally have lots of things to say to you and yap for just a few minutes, but let's jump to it. Your job as the producer, esteemed producer, I might add, of the Message Board Geniuses podcast is number one, to corral a group of people who are looking each week at fan reactions largely. And then the other piece is that you guys have the top names in college sports reporting on your show on a regular basis. And so you get a chance to kind of dig into those minds. So let's start with some posts, and then I want to get to one serious question, which I know may be a little foreign to you, but we'll keep it familiar to start off with, and we'll go with posts. And we're also largely talking baseball tonight. So that'll be good since that's kind of in your wheelhouse and you've covered some baseball as well, which we won't really get into who you cover. All right. Let's start with Georgia so that we can poke Craig just a little bit. You'll see it here on the screen. The post says, I blame some, not all, on the out-of-state acceptance rate. The average Georgia fan now has some brainiac from New Jersey who scored a 1490 on the SEC. At most, other SEC schools, the average rabid fan college student can still enroll. Other schools have a brotherhood and a fan base that Georgia does not. Georgia has great fans, just not as great as other places. So, MBG says that Georgia's letting in too many brainiacs and it's hurting the fan base. What say?
I thought that was just the people who covered them, because I feel like that's a shot at both me and my good buddy there who's down in Carolina, because we're both Northerners, but we start covering Georgia. But hey, it's exciting.
Casey, what do you think? Is the Georgia fan base getting too smart? Last time I checked, they were still barking at people.
Well, I'll be honest. If you win a national championship, all of a sudden your enrollment, like people start applying to your school and stuff. So naturally, you're going to have to get smarter, which I think may have led hand in hand with kind of the impending downfall of the SEC. I mean, as Georgia fans get smarter, the acceptance rates get harder. It's going to be harder to get some of these kids in. So I fully agree, and as I normally do with all of these message board posters. I think these guys, you get smarter. Obviously, the product on the field gets dumber.
I will say, being from a northern state in Michigan, hearing some of the places where our kids are going, Georgia, South Carolina, Ole Miss, Clemson, these kids are wanting to leave the North and they want to go there. So they are infiltrating. They are going back. But I don't think they're making us dumber.
Okay, I feel like I'm being overtaken here a little bit, and I need to speak for, states that exist in the SEC. Why, and when did we crown Georgia as a public Ivy, And if so, is that what led to the early departure from the regional?
Maybe that's their driving problem.
Yeah, there's no question. There's no question. Look at all the SEC teams that were in the College World Series. What was it? 25, I think.
Yep, something like that.
And only 2 are going to remain, maybe. So, yeah, I mean that's only 12%. No math. I don't do math. But
So Craig already tried to do math. We said that we were going to inform you that this is supposed to be a math-free zone, but he already tried to do math once tonight. Not sure how well that worked out for him. Okay, let's move on to the next one because I'm tired of looking at red and black.
Was that coming down the track?
Yeah, we can go. Let's go to Ole Miss, Phil, if we can do that.
Ooh, a very popular hot take on the message boards: fire everybody.
All right, so we got a lot going on here.
Yep.
The Ole Miss loses. It says, "Don't let him coach tomorrow. Can't help you. Perennial underachieving. Outcoached in a big game as usual. Solid team." So this is a full meltdown. This is a fire everybody meltdown as Ole Miss lost in the regional to Murray State. They also want to turn around and hire Murray State's coach. That's the headline. That's the headline in one of these posts. So if you can't beat them, hire them, I suppose, is the line here. Thoughts from the baseball mind of Casey Cregan?
There is something seriously wrong in the state of Mississippi. They had 2 national championship winning baseball coaches. Mississippi State runs theirs right off. I mean, he's gone. And I sit here in Charleston, South Carolina, not far from where he graduated from in the Citadel. And then you get Mike Bianco from Ole Miss. He wins the national championship from nowhere. Out of nowhere, Ole Miss made that run a couple years ago. And now they want to run him out of town. I mean, like, you can't get much. Spoiled much? Come on, guys.
But what I think this post does, and I think this is what the great part about message board geniuses do, is capture the sanity of fans. I think some of the best message boards we see is after a huge loss because everybody is on the hot seat. Everybody is going to get fired. So,
yeah, I mean, it usually only happens like after the opening drive, the first play, a receiver drops a ball, or like defense gives up a big play. That's when you really want to fire everybody. Not after a whole season.
Come on.
Or winning a natty.
Hey, Craig, is this third one also Ole Miss where they said that it's a lock?
Yeah,
that's where I want to go to because look at the comparison here.
Okay.
Because you're in one case you're fire everybody.
Yep.
But just prior you get the post that says it's a lock. We beat the doors off these dudes again tomorrow. Never been more confident. They just won't be able to get us out. Also, it feels nice having a competent shortstop out there at the post and in the field. All right, so
I was trying to see if this was the same guy that said to fire everybody. Like if he just went the total tangents like Friday.
Well, I think it just shows the kind of juxtaposition between the two, but within one fan base, right?
Yep.
One day it's the headline literally says never been more confident. The next day it says hire the other team's coach now. That's the SEC in a nutshell. Am I wrong?
Yeah, that's pretty common, and we saw that pretty much all tournament so far.
And we can laugh at it, but if I take a serious turn for just a minute, I think that there's some beauty in that because that's what we love about sports. And if there wasn't this much passion, how excited would we be to watch the games ourselves? I think that we love the sports, a lot of them, not just one individual, but we love multiple sports. But the fact that people come around us, as a plane goes over, Casey said, people come around us and they have passion as well. And they want to be a part of the game. They want to cheer for their team, their life, their day, their mood. Everything is hanging in the balance on what's happening in this moment. Mm-hmm. I think that's what really drives college athletics and sets it apart as different, and what drives the SEC and makes it a different league.
And that's why I got to give a shout out to my buddy Casey and to MBG, who runs the Message Board Geniuses account. Not only on the podcast, which you hear every Wednesday or Thursday night whenever Casey decides to hit the right button, but you can follow that on Twitter on almost a daily basis. And they do such a great job of capturing this fan passion and capturing this fan engagement, and that is why he's such a good friend of the show.
I think it I think it was Ari Wasserman or Dan Wetzel, maybe even Dan Wolkin that introduced me to the fact that fan is short for fanatic. I never knew that.
Now we're an English show. We're doing math and we're doing English. Stop it, Casey.
I'm glad you're learning your roots. Glad you're learning your roots here, Casey. All right, look, we have one more, and then I'm going to ask you about those guys before we get you out of here. So the Florida Board of Governors blocked the hiring of Michigan Santaono as president. This is crazy, right? Like, This is the story that Craig has wanted to talk about all week. And then the Post comes in. So first of all, the fact that they blocked his hiring is interesting enough. Really, really, I don't know. Is bizarre the right word? Let's stop there for a minute. Craig, what's going on in Michigan? You're up there.
You know, Santaono basically decided he was Jim Harbaugh's biggest fan, biggest supporter, and then all of a sudden decides, hey, you know what? I'm going to take my talents to Gainesville, and gets hired in as the next president. And seems to be a for sure thing. Gets posted on social media. Everything gets going on. And then all of a sudden, boom, the Board of Governors voted 10-6 not to bring him in. So now he not only now out of a job at the University of Florida, but he's also persona non grata back at the University of Michigan. Totally wild story. But more importantly, how does it affect college football, Rob?
Yeah, this connection is what's wild, because the story itself stands alone. But the Post says, great, now we're stuck with Billy for 2 more years.
Is that your burner? Because you've been all about hanging with Billy for as long as possible.
It's not because I believe in Billy. It's because I believe in giving guys a chance. Okay, Craig? I don't believe in him. I picked them to go 2-10 last year. I do not believe in Billy. I do believe in giving guys a chance. I think they should have fired him, for the record. But anyway, yeah, like, this is crazy. Like, what is I'm having trouble drawing the line. Does anybody know what the line is? Casey, can you fill us in? You're the expert.
That's being very kind to me.
That's good analysis right there.
Yeah, that was about that's about my character on the MBG show. No, I have no analysis, and being quite honest with you, in staying in my character, I didn't even follow this story at all. So I saw it on Twitter, didn't follow it at all. So the first time I'm actually hearing the details of it was from Craig McMichael's mouth. So that's my analysis.
Okay, seriously, you guys have the best guests on your show. You have the biggest names, and these guys want to be a part of your show because it's entertaining, because it's fun. And so, what's that experience been like for you across this ride of being on the MBG pod and getting to talk to some of the biggest names? You just mentioned a few of them with Ari Wasserman, with Wetzel, with Dan Wolkin, different guys that have been on the show. If there's anything that, he had Nakos last week. So is there anything that sticks out in your mind as like, this is something I've learned from them? Maybe not one piece of breaking news, but just something that you say, like, just the way they operate?
Well, the first part of your question, every week I say pinch me because, everyone on the show knows I'm a big Le Batard fan. So we had 2 folks from the Le Batard show. So that's just, it's unbelievable. And there's always that, like, uncomfortableness from the start that you're like, these people are coming to talk to me, a guy with an eye patch, MBG, and a crazy lunatic Alabama fan in Mobile. So, like, there's always a little bit of uncomfortability in having them. I don't remember your second question. That's on brand for me. It might have only been one question, to be honest, but
just don't get hit.
It's a lot of fun. There's a loud car behind me. It's really neat. I think another joke I could say is keep your friends close, and select your friends really well, because MBG does have such a great following on Twitter, and he simply reaches out, and it is amazing to me how Mike Golick Jr., Chris Felica. I mean, I'm Nicole Auerbach. I mean, it sounds like you're bragging after a while, and it's not meant to be, but it's a lot of fun. Nakos, as you said, I obviously asked him my long-winded question to nowhere about Nico. I am Malabula. And it turned a little serious. So, like, we do get a little bit serious. We try not to at all, but it did kind of get a little serious, and we heard some kickback that he received. But
That was perfect.
It's a lot of fun. This is your second week, and here I am ruining your show. I apologize, but
Hey, look,
No,
you are
this is
you are
on brand.
improving the show. We appreciate it.
this is completely on brand. So I appreciate you giving me this platform as well.
Yep.
Hey,
One last
thanks for
question before you go out.
The other two guys weren't available, so to keep that in mind. Too.
Yeah. One last question before you go out. Whose hat are you wearing tonight?
All right, thanks for coming in, Casey. We appreciate you being on the show. We'll get you out of here so that you can grab that Uber and get to the house. Thanks a lot. We really do appreciate the laughs that you bring us, and also genuine insight that you offer to us, and friendship as well. So I appreciate you being with us tonight, everybody. That was Casey Cregan. Thank you so much. Yep.
Have a great show, guys.
Appreciate it, brother.
Hey, I just want to make a note really quick. Phil's producing for us tonight, and I just want to, Phil, if you can make a note to let JB know tomorrow, whatever day he has Whittle on this week, that let him know we had somebody on the street at the airport. If that tops the dumpster that Whittle was beside in Ohio on the Inside the Gamecock show, we would like to get in the running for the most odd spot that a guest shows up from. Okay. All right.
That's friendship. That's friendship right there. Shout out to our buddy Casey.
Yeah, he was coming in off of I saw him in the backstage off the plane. Okay. We are staying hot right here on the Tri-Fit Performance guest line, and we have with us Tony Siracusa, managing editor at Last Word on College Football. Tony is a man who has hired us both at one point in the past. we call him Uncle Tony, and he's here to talk about the numbers with us tonight. Tony, thank you so much for being here. How's it going?
Only one of you is still with us, though. What the heck, man?
Yeah,
hey,
you know
what?
life.
It's not the math or the grammar major either.
I hired you. I hired you both, and only one of you stuck around. I got issues there, but we'll work that out another time. Hey, congratulations to both of you on the new format, the new show, the new platform. I'm very excited for you. We've got a lot of challenges in the new media world and the new media landscape, and I love it when guys who work as hard as you do, and people who work as hard as you two do, who put as much time and devotion and energy into what they do.
Stop it, Tony. I'm blushing.
I love it when they succeed. I just, that matters. It matters a lot to me. It will matter a lot to me that you two succeed, and I know you will. And so I'm rooting hard for the both of you.
Thank you. We certainly appreciate it. And we are appreciative of you too for getting us here. If it wasn't for some advice that you've given us and opportunities you've given us along the way, we wouldn't be here tonight. And so we owe a lot to you. And one of the things that we will continue to do is ask you these types of questions, because now that the House settlement is approved, you are the only person I know who was streaming the courtroom live, who was taking notes throughout the process. So you are not relying on someone else. You are listening. You are listening to it from the horse's mouth. And so you know what's going on and what's happening here, and you're also well connected across the college football landscape. What about from an AD or coach's perspective? How are they responding? What types of plans of action are you hearing and seeing? What are people moving to do? Because this is effective immediately. Is that correct?
July 1st is when all of this is going to take effect. And yeah, I mean, I lost a lot of sleep late night Friday, overnight Saturday, because Judge Claudia Wilkin, we've been waiting for a few weeks, really thinking that this ruling was going to come out earlier. She put it out at about 7 p.m. West Coast time. Her courtroom is in Oakland, California. And I had just gotten home from a Savannah Bananas game in Charlotte, was getting ready to actually call an early night, and I saw the news alert that this was coming through. So I got out of bed and pulled up the decision, downloaded it, spent the night. It was a 76-page ruling, which was kind of brief for her. Her ruling in the O'Bannon case was over 100 pages long. And I sat there and read it and made notes. And turns out I actually was in the family room at our house, fell asleep with my laptop and my notepad in my lap, making notes for
sounds like a great read. We're glad you did it for us.
Exactly. So look, the preparation has already been going on for some time at most schools. They've been anticipating that she was going to approve it. Frankly, they had to act in an anticipatory way so that they would be ready when she did. If she didn't, then they could just take their plans and throw them in the trash. What has happened over the last 6 months, 7 months is as these schools have signed their high school recruits back in December, as they've signed their guys from the transfer portal in the winter window and then the spring, they don't sign letters of intent anymore. They sign contracts, literally. Those contracts talk about you're going to come play for us, you're going to take these classes, you're going to work towards this degree, these credits, whatever the case may be. The financial part of it has been written up for the last 6 months as here's the money we're going to pay you in the new revenue sharing plan, contingent upon House versus NCAA settlement being approved by the court. And different schools have it laid out different ways. You're going to get paid in these months. You're going to get paid this amount in this month, whatever the case may be. If the athletes are smart, they've had attorneys look it over before signing it. One of the things I have found out in the course of conversations, and this is just kind of one of those little side notes, it's kind of a throwaway until we get to December. A lot of schools are not making payments to the athletes, the football players specifically, in December. They're going to get paid that month because it's not necessarily a payment every month. Sometimes it's quarterly, sometimes it's monthly, but a lot of schools aren't doing it in December. You're going to get paid in January because there's a clause in a lot of these contracts that if we make a bowl game, you will not opt out of that bowl game. If you do, you won't see your January payment.
What if you hit the transfer? What if you hit the transfer portal on that, Tony? Like, so if you hit the portal, are you also opting out of that January payment? You think?
Yeah, you are. If you're hitting that winter portal window, which as we sit here today is still a month long, starting in that first or second week of December, you're really not going to be playing in a bowl game anyway, because you don't want to risk your future at whatever your next school is. So you're pretty much giving that last payment up anyway. So that's kind of a little tricky little thing that they're putting in there.
Yeah.
Do you think we have a question here in the chat box from Queen of the Cox?
Sure.
Wants to know, do you think that this ruling makes the commitment process go any faster from high school recruiting, with the effectiveness going into effect July 1st? With this 26 class, could you get them committed and theoretically front load anything still, or is that out the window?
I think the front loading is out the window at this point. A lot of schools have been front loading money from the collectives and whatever NIL deals were out there in order to get them paid what will probably be over the amount that they're going to be able to get paid from the revenue sharing. Look, so there's a cap. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, let's go there, because you're about to lead us to exactly what's next on my notes. And the question that Craig and I have, we've bounced it around time and time again, and we talked about it with you a few weeks ago on It Just Means More Football and Coffee, with the teeth that we're giving to Deloitte.
Yeah. Look,
how many of these deals are going to fall through the cracks in year one?
I don't think a lot will. I think Deloitte is going to approve as much as they can conceivably get away with. The Deloitte's role is going to be in simply assessing the NIL deals. And you know this because we've gone over this so many times. I'm talking legitimate NIL deals. I'm talking about the local car dealership wants the starting quarterback, and they're going to do autograph signings and be in commercials, and it's going to be in exchange for cash and a car and whatever else. That is what Ed O'Bannon spent all those years fighting for, real NIL deals. A lot of the point of this is to push the collectives to the side and take away some of that impact from the boosters. The coaches never liked it, but they lived with it. This actually part of Judge Claudia Wilkins' ruling addresses what she calls associated entities and individuals and how they can be prohibited third parties. The schools can push them off to the side. They're not going to, because they still want some of that money. but the collectives are no longer going to rule the day as to who owns what and who owns what players. So Deloitte is going to be a party to taking a look at the NIL deals and loosely determining whether they are fair market value. And I say loosely because the terms fair market value aren't really part of this ruling, but do they at least reach, they don't go below the floor of $600 for an athlete, and they don't go whatever the ceiling becomes, and the market will determine the ceiling. But is it reasonable in market, XYZ, that this player is making this much money for, local supermarket commercials? And those, of course, are going to fluctuate because fair market value in Los Angeles for UCLA and USC is different than it is in Lincoln, Nebraska, for whatever the case may be. I'm not real comfortable with the Deloitte part of it yet, simply because there's a lot that seems fluid in how they're going to determine what these values are. So that being the case, I expect them to approve pretty much everything. And really, it's not up to them to disapprove of anything. It's up to them to give an assessment. There is a new organization that we all need to become familiar with, the College Sports Commission. That will take the role of what the NCAA used to do, and that is to determine whether you are following the rules or not following the rules specific to this judicial ruling. They're not going to take part in anything else. They're not going to talk about whether you went to classes. That is still in the purview of the NCAA. They're not going to, but they are going to talk about whether you have stayed within the rules, whether it's the school or the individual athlete, of Judge Wilkins' rulings. And so that is going to be, and we have literally within hours after Judge Wilkins' ruling, we learned that Brian Seeley is the new CEO of the commission. Seeley is currently the Major League Baseball executive vice president for legal operations. So he's got that investigative experience. He will put together a team quickly that will work under him, an administrative team. And that will be the ruling force with regards to the outcome of this.
Do you think that there's any way that, if guys do early on in this process, if guys are doing deals for $610, which would be just over the threshold, is there a world where some of those are not going to get reported to the CSC and there's going to be? I mean, that's really my question. Is in year one, as we're tightening up some of these details, how much of that stuff is just going to get done? And then, for me, when does it rise to the level that it catches somebody's attention? Is there a monetary value, or is it a number of players who are doing $650 deals because it's not a big enough number to ping it? You know what I mean? Like, money laundering doesn't happen in huge amounts. You're doing little bits at a time. I'm not saying that that's what this is. I'm just saying that
there's the Fifth Amendment, Rob. Just to let you know.
What's that?
There's the Fifth Amendment, Rob. You do not have to incriminate yourself.
You know what I mean? Like,
I do. You use a
players that are taking $650 deals and they're not getting reported, then maybe that throws a flag.
You use the term tightening up, and let me take that term and run with it. We're not tightened up on this yet, and I don't know how long it's going to take to be tightened up. There is always going to be a breaking of the rules. Their players have been getting paid for 100 years. It was how they got paid, who paid them, the boosters, the under the jobs that didn't really exist. You're getting paid by a booster to make sure the sprinklers come on the practice field, that kind of stuff. Let's not pretend that everything is going to be clean and above board. It's not. There's still going to be some indiscretions. Will they get caught? Some will, some won't. But I think really what this does is it doesn't make everything righteous and clean going forward. What it does is give structure to the ability of the athletes to make money. Because if this was not approved, The next step was a trial date. There wouldn't have been more mediation. Judge Wilkin made that clear. The calendar had run out for that. The next step was to start setting trial dates. The NCAA would have lost because the NCAA has been operating in violation of Sherman antitrust laws for about 50 years. And they would have lost. But in the meantime, the system would have continued the way it was. And I'm telling you, college sports would not have survived long term. The weight of what was happening, of the growth of the collectives, of the power of the collectives would have overwhelmed college sports, and they would have died in time from the weight of everything coming down on top of them. This is far from perfect. I have read it. I've looked at it. I followed the case. Like you said, I was streaming her hearings to kind of check for details. Between this and the ACC court cases with Florida State and Clemson, I'm grateful that I studied constitutional law as a minor in college, because I've spent more time following court cases than I have practices on the field. This was a way to get the best out of a bad situation. It's not perfect. It's also worth noting this decision is valid for 10 years. There is a limit on it. In that 10 years, what I think we can assume and presume is we're going to see action from the United States Congress, from the House and from the Senate that will nationalize a plan. I've spent the last 3 or 4 years listening to pundits say there's no taste for this in Congress. They don't want any part of it. No, they actually do. But what comes into play here is, and I'm not picking on any specific politician, I'm just using them as examples. Marsha Blackburn is going to push forward for whatever favors the Tennessee Volunteers and Vanderbilt, and Ted Cruz is going to do whatever works best for the University of Texas and Texas Tech, and Cory Booker is going to try and find something that salvages Rutgers through all of this. So, but at some point, they've got these years to work through this and come up with a formula where there is one entity that oversees everything going forward.
The big question I have for you, Tony, is Carson Beck allegedly got $4 million to go to South Beach. Bryce Underwood got $13 million to stay in Ann Arbor versus going to LSU. Maybe. Texas is reportedly spending somewhere between 30 and 40 million on their roster. The House settlement, in my estimation, seems like those numbers are now going away. Is that fair? I mean, like, because if we're talking about fair value, do we see things like this again, or like where do we go from here? I think
we won't. No, we won't see them again. One, I don't believe the Texas roster dollar figure.
Agreed.
The denials from the administration. I mean, Sarkisian has said, "Man, I would give anything if I had that kind of money to spend on my roster." It's not even close.
Might help with red zone offense.
It might. Look, it's a matter of how they get to the dollar figures, right?
Okay.
Every school has $20.5 million to spend on athletics, period. Most of the schools are going to spend most of it on football because football brings in the most revenue. I think you'll see there is no set dollar figure. Every school can spend it however they want, and divide up the money however they want. I think you'll see most of them in the $13 to $15 million range per year for football. How they spend that $15 million is up to them. How much they give their quarterback, their running back, their third string center, whatever. So I think you're still, but what they're going to do is, and I think this is where the schools can now legally be involved in NIL. They weren't technically supposed to be before. But if you're, and I'll go from my own personal knowledge, if you're Wake Forest and you're going to struggle to compete, you're going to spend the full $20 million. But Dave Clawson, as of July 1st, technically by contract becomes a fundraiser for the university. I don't need him going and meeting with, this donor for $500. I need him going to the local businesses to strike up NIL deals for the players and the university. And it's now legal for the school to do that. That's where I think you get above that. Say we're spending 15 million for football. That's where you're going to get to the 20, 25 million through these NIL deals that can now be brokered by the universities.
And that's where I think that's where I think you're going to see the power of the collectives, right? So the collectives throughout did a very good job at raising the funds to get these guys in there, and there was some donor fatigue, whatever that may be. But to me, I think but I think that's what's going to be the interesting part, looking at athletic departments, of how do they leverage these collectives, how do they leverage these contacts, how do they leverage these people to bring these dollars and funnel them.
I don't think it's just leveraging them. I think it's how they utilize them.
Yeah.
For some schools, because in talking to administrators at schools throughout the ACC and even the SEC, some of them are going to say, you know what I need the collective to do? I need the collective to take care of my other programs now.
Yep.
I don't need them to raise 20 million for football. I need them to raise 8 million for women's volleyball, softball, and track and field. That's what
as he shows his lacrosse shirt. Absolutely.
Lacrosse. And I think you're going to see the collectives get a lot more involved, because that way the schools aren't relying on them for such massive financial volume. It's a smaller scale.
It's definitely a change, and I think a change for the better, and a change that we have kind of seen coming for a while, and finally it is here. I want to say thank you again to Tony Siracusa for coming in and helping us make some sense of it and see the steps forward and break down a little bit of, not only what we're working with in the present, but it's an ever evolving and changing landscape. And so we'll see over the next 10 years how it continues to change. Phil, do you want to let's jump and hit this last break, and we'll come back and close it down with the last word.
Thanks, Tony.
All right, guys, be well.
Absolutely.
At TriFit Physical Therapy and Performance, we believe true health and peak performance start with personalized care. Whether you're an athlete recovering from injury or just chasing your next personal best, we're here to guide your journey. With expert coaching, hands-on therapy, and transparent cash-based pricing, you get the care you need without the insurance red tape. One client drove 100 miles just to see us and said it was worth every mile. Contact us at trifitperformance.com or 803-353-5619. TriFit Physical Therapy and Performance, where recovery meets results.
We got started in 1979. Because we're a manufacturer, we're able to control our costs. That's why we like to manufacture as much of the product as we can, because in our factory stores we can offer a competitive edge over other people around the country. When people come into one of our Palm Casuals, it's like they're buying their car at Detroit. They're going right to the factory and buying their car.
30-day money-back guarantee. That's a big deal with us. I mean, we give 30 days to do anything. I mean, return it, change it, get a different color, get your money back.
When you pull into a store and it says Palm Casual, you know you're at a factory store.
This is SEC, Sunday night on the Chiefs Sports Network.
Once again, welcome back. It is SEC Sunday night here live on the Chief Sports Network every Sunday at 8 p.m. That was Tony Siracusa, managing editor at Last Word on College Football. Craig, it is time for our favorite segment, The Last Word, as we get out of here. Last week, we talked a little bit, or actually, it was on Inside the Gamecocks where I was talking about this week, about how the impact of the EA Sports College Football video game has on the minds of people and their perception of teams. So as we get out of here, just really quickly, as we continue to let people get to know who we are, for you, when you were playing Tecmo Bowl or whatever, you wrote EA on the agenda, but there's no way you were still playing this. You had to be like,
2000, buddy.
Okay.
2000 NCAA.
What was your go-to team? Who was your team that you're playing with?
Vatek, baby. Michael Vick.
Oh, the Hokies. That shows your time a little bit. You know, for me, you know, Michael Vick was untouchable on the game. Let's just be honest.
Yep.
For me, it was there was a rule that we could never play with South Carolina because I was playing with my friends, and we were Gamecocks, and so we weren't going to play with the team that we liked because then we'd have to both play with it, and that's dumb. So I was actually always Oklahoma, which is interesting considering the way that we have broken them down this offseason. Not a lot of high hopes out there in Norman, at least from our perspectives. There are a lot of high hopes for John Mateer nationally, and what a lot of people think he's going to be able to do. Maybe not us. And there's another teaser of the spreadsheet. We'll eventually get that thing over to you guys. You can see it. So you know what, buddy? Maybe we'll just fire the game up sometime, and we'll get online. You can be the Hokies, and I'll be the Sooners, and we'll see who's going to come out better in the 2025 version.
You win.
Yeah, I think probably so. All right. This has been SEC Sunday Night on the Chiefs Sports Network. I want to say thank you again to Casey Cregan from the Message Board Genius podcast. Also, Tony Siracusa, a.k.a. Uncle Tony from Last Word on College Football. Check both of them out on Twitter, and you can follow along with their work as well as we continue to work through the dog days of summer as we work our way towards the college football season. Make sure you're tuned in tonight. Right now, we should be getting first pitches with LSU and West Virginia, and also Florida State and Oregon State to see who's going to be those final two teams to make it to Omaha. You got one game tomorrow in Durham with the Blue Devils and Murray State. We thank you guys for being with us tonight, and we will see you next Sunday.
This is SEC Sunday Night, part of the Chiefs Sports Network.